We're out here. This is the field where the magic happens.
Benning Bites with Damon Benning. Benning Bites with Damon Benning.
Another episode of Benning Bites. It is the pre-spring. It's been a crazy week. The NFL draft and folks hitting the portal. Basketball, football, an amazing week. A lot of emotions, a lot of strong feelings. Appreciate you being a part of what we do. Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube. I don't know. Like whatever the platforms are, we are trying to provide the best content we can. And we appreciate you being a part of what we do. We're on ESPN Tri-Cities and ESPN 590 here in Omaha. You know, we've talked a lot all week, kind of all spring, if you will, going back to some of the things that Coach Rule said at the very beginning of spring about how, you know, winter is for contributions in the spring. Spring is for stronger contributions in the summer. Summer is for getting yourself ready to be a guy in the fall. And, you know, he's kind of given us the breadcrumbs to go eat a nice little meal, right? It's how do we take in the spring game? Well, he wants it to look like football. Will it look like football? We hope so. What are our takeaways from the spring game? And, you know, I think it's always interesting how we remember kind of we've developed this narrative because we haven't seen Nebraska win and have the offseason actually yield fruitful results. So I think that's kind of shaped our behavior on how we think about the spring game. Because when you're winning in the fall, the narratives change about what happens in the spring, right? Remember in these glory years, right? When Nebraska was winning, that the spring game was must see because it gave you a snippet of what was going to happen in the regular season. And sometimes you wouldn't always have the opportunity to get to games or to see it. And so the spring was like, you know, we've got to see it. And I always wonder, especially on the heels of yesterday's show, where, you know, there were obviously some explosive parts to it, and we were talking about the expectation level. I wonder how much of that conversation would be quelled if Nebraska was cranking out 7, 8, 9, 10 wins a year. If that was the case, I don't think we would be near as sarcastic or cynical about how we view the spring game. Because right now we appear to kind of want it both ways. Does it matter? Does it not matter? Is it just spring? It didn't used to be just spring. Do you know when it became just spring? When we weren't winning games, right? Because I never got the sentiment. And old heads will tell you, man, spring mattered, right? Winter conditioning mattered. Summer mattered. Why did you believe what we said? Well, primarily because you saw proof it was in the pudding in the fall. And I think that's really what we're trying to arrive at. It's, okay, we'll start to really want this to be important to us when we see it with the fruits of the labor. And in the meantime, what Coach Rule has tried to tell you is, why is this particular portion of the calendar important to us? Well, we've got to have some practical application of the work we put in the winter. You're going to see that in the spring. The spring is going to set us up to build on so we know what to work on in the summer. The summer, where we're at there, will give us an idea of guys that can come into fall camp and be ready. And I think we'll answer a lot of the questions and stop the bickering and the back and forth when we see the fruits of the labor. Then there won't be this hand-wringing of, well, what do we do with the quarterback play that we saw on Saturday? Or, oh, that's real, or, oh, that's not real. Because I take Coach Rule at his word. When he said I would start with just not wanting to see the ball on the carpet, he laughs, and there's some tongue-in-cheek to it. But if you remember last year's spring game, for as not important as it was to some, but really important to others, they put the ball on the carpet. And it was a little bit of a precursor to what was happening in the regular season. So if you want to be an optimist and really hop on the Coach Rule message of incremental building blocks The next phase, after however it is that we're going to evaluate all of our hot takes and takeaways on Saturday, will be pitted against what we see in the fall. And then it will start to take on, I think, the value that it really has, and that is as an incremental building block as part of the program's overall success. Then we'll know how to handle it. It's another episode of Benning Bites.